Hey family, Tacc man. How's your spirit? Talk to me. Tell me something good. Man, we had a good time last night. I mean, a really, really good time. Let me put this right. There we go. You see here? No, right here. We had a good time last night. There was two of my partners out of Brooklyn from when I was a kid. Well, we was all kids, 18, 19, 20. And it's good to see where we've gone or come from to where we are now. You know, like I said, one of the brothers is a pastor. The other brother has put his daughter through college. She just got her bar. She's going to be a lawyer. So, you know, in life, you're going to go through things. It's just how it goes. But it's about how you deal with the things that you go through in life. And if you see the video from yesterday, you'll see, like the pastor was saying, you know, he went from thinking that he was God to understand there's a God. And all the things that we went through, you know, bore a lot of pain and suffering. But we made it through, you know, and that's what through adversity comes change is all about. That's what this book right here, you can check it out on Amazon. This is my book, Through Adversity Comes Change. It's 5 principles, 3 articles, 1 healer, helping everyone accept, achieve, and appreciate love. And it's very rare that you find guys that are still friends. We became friends in like 1985. And even though our paths are different, we may not speak a lot, but we still maintain a friendship, you know. And a lot of the guys that I grew up with, you know, before I met them, you know, I'm not friends with, you know, so you never know who's going to be uh, in your life. This is why you have to live right, you know. And we went through so many different adversities to get to where we are today. This is why, like I was saying last night, I wouldn't change anything for the simple fact that if anything would have been changed, we wouldn't be the people we are today. And like I said, I kind of love me today. No, not kind of, I love me today. And I do everything in my life to live right, you know, to do the right thing, you know, to help people. You know, this is what my mission is, my goal is to be able to be a helper to the world and give love instead of hate. You know, because it's nothing but hate out there right now. And it's time for us to start loving each other. You know, and this is why it's so important. That's why the topic is why it's so important to live right, do the right thing, to make changes in your life. You know, because it can only better you, you know, if you better you, the people around you will see it and it will make them want to be better. And when people around you see you doing better and they want to do better, they're going to start doing better. And then people around them are going to see them doing better and so forth and so on. This is what it's about. It's about us helping each other to heal, to learn, to grow, and to be something more than what is said that we are. You know, to show the world that we are not just one thing. We're more than one thing. We're a little bit of everything. And the only way you can do that is going through your adversities and making the changes you need to make in your life, just your life. And a lot of times people don't want to face themselves. And I guess I was blind by my lifestyle for many years. Like I said, I was a cripple for almost 50 years. So I get it. I understand. But it comes a time in your life where change is necessary. Doing the right thing is necessary. Because, you know, one thing about life, we're going to be dead longer than we are alive. So we must make the best of this by living right, doing right, leaving an imprint in this life that you are a just person, that someone learned from you, someone can grow from you, someone can help someone else from what you put into the world. This is what it's all about, because we're not going to live forever. And like I said, after doing all the time I've done in prison and going through all the things I've gone through in my life, I understand why change is so important. And it's just not for me. It's like I said earlier. Once a person sees me make changes, then it'll make them want to make changes and so forth and so on. Before you have a movement, this is what this is. This is a movement. This is a brand. This is a platform. This is a program, all wrapped up in one. And inshallah, one day, you guys will see it. Because like I said, I've been through so much in my life. And I'm still at peace. And that's hard after going through all I've gone through. And like if you looked at yesterday's program with me and the two brothers, you'll see the things that I've been through. And you'll understand why, change is so important. We live crazy. And if it wasn't for the grace of God, some of us wouldn't be here. Like we were saying last night, God was watching over us. And God take care of fools and babies. And we wasn't babies. We just fools. And here we have today, a brother's a bishop, been a pastor for 17 years. Going from thinking he was God to now understanding that there's a God. That's a beautiful thing, man. And being a pastor for 17 years now, just become a bishop. That's a wonderful story. And coming from where we come from and doing the things that we did, it was real. And there's a lot of people who have stories, right? But are not willing to let people know. Like, we're in the age now that we have to help each other. We have to give each other uh, understandings of life so that the younger doesn't have to go through the things that we went through. Like I said, if you looked at the program last night, you will see that, we've been through a lot, and each one of us is in our 60s. And we've been out the street since we was early teens. So the thing is, helping everyone accept, achieve, and appreciate the things that are missing right now. Because we've gotten so comfortable with being uncomfortable that we're afraid of being uncomfortable, so that we can be comfortable being comfortable for the rest of our lives. You have to put the steps forward. No one is going to do it for you. And this is just how life is. I don't make the rules. So I'm going to start this one, right? It's the alchemy of adversity, turning struggle into strength. The crash. Define the adversity. No sugarcoating, acknowledge the pain, loss, or fear of honesty. These are the things that you have to strip off. You have to identify that adversity. You can't sugarcoat it. You have to face it. You have to acknowledge the pain that it gives you, the loss, and the fear. And you have to be honest. This is why I say this platform is about being honest with you. It's not about no one else. It's about helping you to heal. And I get my blessings from God, so that's the blessings from me. Name was, then you say you pause. Resist the urge to react immediately. Read, observe your emotional data without judgment. And what that is saying is, once you're able to identify, don't, get all amped up. Just be cool. Breathe, and accept, the things that you've gone through. And see, this is what I tell you, the past is just a measuring stick for the things that you like today and don't like. And the things you don't like, you put boundaries. And the people who love you, they respect your boundaries. And the people who don't will try to go through them. And that's the people you don't deal with. It's simple. It's hard, but it's simple because it's mostly the people that you love the most. And that was one of the things I asked God to do when I was locked up. Take the people out of my life who don't deserve to be there. Everybody's not meant to be in your life forever. You have leaves, you have branches, and you have roots. Most people are leaves. They go with the wind. Branches are a little bit more sturdy, but the only ones that stick with you is roots. And I have just a few roots. And that's like the world. See, because a lot of times we don't understand how much a relationship or friendship means. And this is why I've never tried to break a friendship or a relationship. I've always tried to do the right thing. And it just doesn't work out sometimes. And that's just how life is. Then you name what's broken. Identify specific impacts. Trust, finance, health, relationships. Clarity reduces overwhelm. So basically what this is doing is you have to identify, and this is what Tacc is about, helping you to identify specific impacts. Trust is a major uh, impact in our lives because if we don't trust, we can't have relationships. You have to be able to trust to have a relationship. It could be about money, which is finances, but your finances only deal with what you're willing to go out there and get. There's so many ways to make money, and you just have to figure it out. And most people don't want to use their head for more than a hat rack. And this is why they don't have. You have to put in the work. It could be about your health. And, some things you can deal with, some things you can't. And what this is we identify with things that are broken, that you feel are broken in your life. And it's only through the adversity you make change. And you have to look at these different things in order for you to get through those brokenness. You have to be able to identify. It could be a relationship. You may not be good with relationships. But you have to work on these things. Everything can be fixed if you put the work in. It's just like a marathon. You only can start a marathon with the first step. That's it. And you just keep going. And then see when you go through these different things in your mind after you're trying to heal, clarity reduces overwhelmness. See, because a lot of times we overwhelm ourselves with just thoughts, different little things that if we address them as they come in our lives, it would be a whole lot different in our lives. But we have to get to that place in our life that we can be able to do these things. And it takes time. Then you have to separate the facts from the story you made up or the story someone made up. Fact, I lost my job. Story, I'll never work again. That's something you made up in your mind. You'll never work again. You know, uh, things happen. So what you have to do is you have to put your best foot forward and go out there and do what you have to do. You know, and you can't be a pessimist. You have to be an optimist because see, pessimism is thinking negative. Everything is negative. Optimism is thinking positive. And what you put out in the universe, you'll get back. Trust and believe that. You know, I'm a perfect example. You know, and I use me because I'm the only one that I can speak for. You know, I've been through a lot, and still I rise because it's my destiny to be great, and I know it, and I've known it since I was a kid. Like my other buddy that came on, he was saying how even when I was in prison, I was positive because you know once you have an understanding in a relationship with God, you know that everything He puts you through is for a reason, and He makes no mistakes. And everything He puts you through, He's going to get you through. This is why I've always had a positive outlook on being even in there. Because, you know, there's a saying in Islam, He puts you where you remember Him the most. And where He puts you at is where you pray the most, you worship Him the right way, you do what you're supposed to do. And it teaches you to come out here and do the same thing. I worship my God how I worship Him in prison. And I may even do it even more now because I know I'm important. You know, so you have to be able to identify with your part in anything in life. And until you're able to do that, face these things, man, you know, this life is going to be tough. And you say this right here. What's one action you can take today? And you do that for 5 minutes or less. To try to heal yourself, to better yourself, to try to leave yourself from stress. You know, 5 minutes a day for you. And watch how fruitful that becomes in your life. This small thing. It's not a big thing. And it's not like you're trying to fix everything in your life. It's one thing at a time. Take 5 minutes to sort through one thing. And just do it once a day until you're able to do it more. You know, because life is a great thing when you make it. You know, we make our lives. Like I hear people say, oh man, life is tough. No, life is not tough. Life is what you make it. You know, like I said, you know, I went from spending $1,000 a day on scratch tickets to now living off $1,000 a month. And I have changed. That's a beautiful thing. And I'm content and I have everything that I need and more. So it's about mental growth. What's up, A4? How's everything? Just dropping a little bit of science, that's all. Helping us to get to our adversities and make the change we need to make so we can get it right. And then you must do like, what's happening? What's happening? How's everything, y'all? And you must, right, when you're evaluating your life and things, right? You must shift from saying, why me, right? Until what's next. I mean, we the first people on the earth. So, we are everything. We are the original people. And everyone comes from us. So, that's not even a thought. That's the truth. And they know it. And this is why they suppress who we are because they know who we are. They know our greatness. And why do you think? Let me say this right here. Let's get off topic for a minute, right? Because of this question was this: what do you think about black people being the real Israelites and being chosen ones by Yahshua 3,000 years ago? I understand who we are. It took me 50 something years. I mean, that's your opinion. I mean, everybody has an opinion. Like I can't be mad at how you. This is and let me say what this person is saying. I'm a black man and I worship white men. They were the first inventors and they are the glue that keeps our civilization together. Um, that's because he doesn't have an understanding of our history. We are older than 3,000 years old. We are the first people. And he can hate himself. I mean, that's that's understandable. That's just how life is. Some people don't like themselves, so they put their stuff out there to others. But this is why I say we have to heal. And this is a perfect example because this the black man said that he hates blacks. I ain't gonna say what he said, but you get it. And that's understandable. You know, he may have went through something where some black people did him bad. And I get it. But this is about love, you know. This is about love. And see, these are the kind of people who are gonna make you rich, right? Because the more they put data on here, the more I'm gonna be in the algorithm. So I think you keep saying more stuff, But look how disrespectful he is. He said, "Shut the fuck up, you old fart." And he says he's a black man. That right there lets you know how much he hates himself. And it's what it is. But keep on going. You gonna get me some money. Go ahead, keep going. Because he has nothing better to do. And see, that goes back to right here, right? And this is why this is so beautiful. This is right. It says name what's broken. He can't even identify what's broken in him. You see what I'm saying? This is why healing is so important to life. This is why we have to heal. Learn the truth from the lie. This brother has no understanding of the truth. He's only been lied to. And that's only if he's a black guy. It could be a bot, it could be anybody. But what I'm saying is the things that they're saying is negative, and this is a positive platform. Why would a negative person come here? That's because what I'm saying is factual. What I'm saying is hitting nerves. People don't want to heal. They want to stay stuck. They want to stay angry. They want to stay mad. They want to keep worshiping the devil. But all that's going to do is eat you up. What you're doing is like drinking poison, thinking that somebody that you hate going to die. You're going to die because you drunk the poison. You don't hurt nobody but yourself. Hate consumes. It doesn't consume the people that you hate. It consumes you. Just understand that. And hopefully one day you'll be able to heal. Maybe you'll be able to come on my platform, and show your face and talk. So, I would love for you to come on. Now you don't want to talk because I said that you're gonna make me rich. You don't want me to get no money, all right? I'm going back to my show. You have a nice night. And I was at where you ask yourself, you stop asking yourself, why me? And you start saying, who do I need to become? See, when you're hurting and you haven't healed, these are the questions you need to ask yourself. Instead of coming on here on a positive platform and spewing negativity, that's the devil. That's not God. And if you say you believe in God, you're a liar. And worse than a liar is a hypocrite. So try to find yourself and get your life in order. Do what I'm doing. Try to help somebody today, not hurt. And I still love you. And I'm praying for you tonight. You need to find out who you need to become. Because who you are is not a good person. And see, when you start to alleviate those things in your life, you take those things out of your life, right? You have to acknowledge your loss and be able to deal with it. See, because a lot of people, they don't acknowledge their losses. And this is why they stay stuck in their past. You have to let go and let God. Only way you can do it. You have to let go. And see, you can't build change without not acknowledging your loss. Because you have to identify what you're losing, what you're getting rid of. Until you're able to identify and able to look in the mirror like I can and love the person that you see in the mirror, life is going to be tough for you. And I ain't making this up. It's just what it is. And then you need to write a few things down. And what you do, right? You write down, get through this, declare. I am someone who, example, adapt, learns, asks for help. Which one are you? I'm going to ask for help. See, because I know how important healing is. I know how important it is to have a connection with the God of my understanding and live right and do right by people. You know, um, there's so many people out there hurting. And this right here, look at these things on my platform. This is the perfect example of a person who's hurting. This is why I'm doing what I'm doing. Because I want to heal even those kind of people. I want, and see, when you can heal a person that's broken like that, man, you've done a lifetime of work. And what you have to understand is, right, change doesn't, change doesn't come through ease. Change only comes through difficulty, through chaos. You have to understand that part. What you have to do also is build a feedback, weekly review, what worked, what didn't, refine. Adversity is data, not a burden. You use your adversities to describe your pain, your shortcomings, your fears, and you learn from them. This is why you have to write down these things that you go through and do the exercise. I'm giving you a free game. You also have to strengthen your support system. Identify 2 or 3 people or resources, podcast, therapist, book, who will tell you the truth, not just comfort you. And see, this is what I tell you. You have to be 1,000% honest. You can't uh, lie to yourself. You can lie to people, but you can't lie to yourself, and you definitely can't lie to God. And the only way you're going to change is you have to be able to tell the truth to yourself. Be able to look in that mirror and say, man, you know what? I messed up. I, 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 or this happened, or whatever the situation is, and be able to deal with it as a man, as a woman. You know, you have to be able to look in that mirror and say to yourself, man, you know, hey, that's the only way you're going to change. You have to admit your faults. And you don't have to do it to people. It's to you and God. Period. I'm just giving you the platform to show you how to make the change, to show you how to identify your shortcomings, to show you how to face that person. 5 principles, 3 articles, 1 more. Helping everyone except for you. Appreciate that. Period. Practice the return. You'll slip. Plan for it. Your new skill is not perfection, it's how fast you return to the past. You know, and that's just like in anything. You know, you're gonna fall from time to time. But if you fall 9 times, get up 10. I tell you that all the time. People backslide. People, go through things. If you fall down 9, get up 10 times. Dust yourself off and keep putting one foot in front of the other. It's the only way you're gonna make it. Change doesn't happen overnight. Your choices shape your adversities. Your adversities are your lessons to get you to your blessing. You just gotta want it. And see, this is another thing that you can do. You write yourself a letter, your future self, of who you want to become. And you write it from the other side of adversity. And what will you be grateful to learn? You know, you can't hear me that well, Scotty? You hear me now? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Talk to me. I just put it on game mode. Can you hear me? Sound like an echo? Okay, hold up. Oh, they had the echo on. What about now? I just turned the echo off. I just turned the echo off. I didn't even know the echo was on. Does it sound better now? Okay, yeah, I'll put it on. What's your point? I had turned. I didn't even know the echo was on. Did you see the show last night? Oh, this right here. Now, how do you hear me now? Do you hear me better now? I turned it off. A word. I don't know what's going on. I don't know. Okay, but way better. All right. Yeah, did you see the show last night with my two buddies from my old Brooklyn crew? It's delayed. You just said yes, way better. Yeah, I watched the show from last night. It was all right. Still got a lot to learn with this stuff, but I felt it was pretty good. A good message off. And that's what really mattered. Yeah, we had a good time last night. Oh, okay, cool, cool. Did you see the show last night? Yeah, we had a good time, man. We did a little reminiscing, and then we got busy. Oh, okay. It's and what's crazy? It's on YouTube. When you go in, remember, like when you go in and you hit it and it comes on. It's on the main. I got quite a few on the main thoroughfare on the platform now. If you go on YouTube, you'll see one of my videos will be on there. That's a beautiful thing, you know. But today was about why it was so important to make change in your life, and I was just showing that I had a dude to come on there, and he was talking crazy, and I told him the same thing I told the other one. Yeah, you gonna make me rich. Keep talking crazy. He stopped talking, but I was saying that he said he was a black man that hates black people, but he said the N word, and he said he worships white people because they the first inventors. He's only got history from slavery up. He doesn't understand that we're the first people on the earth, and everything was invented from us. Even the stuff in the United States was mostly invented by us and was stolen. So, that's just a person who needs to make change. And that's why this platform is so important, because you're going to get those kind of people. And those kind of people will help you to grow, because you're not look at them in a bad light. It's just that you understand that's where they're at. Like I tell you, when God gives you the vision of true life, and you see life for what it is and people for who they are, and you don't judge, because it's just where they at in their life. That's not where you at in your life. And you just got to be better and try to help them. Like I told him, you need to look at yourself and try to make changes in your life, for the simple fact that you're spewing hate. This is not a hateful platform. This is a platform of love, of healing. But that just goes to show you uh, what's going on in the world. People are really, really uh, going through it. And I pray for the brother. If he was a person, he could have been a bot. I don't know. But as soon as I start talking about he gonna make me money, they stop. So it probably was a bot. Like you say, you gotta watch them dudes. That's why I don't click on shit no more. You taught me that lesson. But yeah, man, we had a good show last night, man. And they want to come back and do it again. With more of the brothers. So You know, it might. It's going to be all right. Yeah, yeah, true. Yeah, it could be real people too. Oh, you seen the stuff he wrote on there? Nigga's an idiot. But it is what it is. You hold up. Give me 1 second. Yeah, I know that was crazy, right? Come on in. Hold on, lock that door. All right. Let me finish my podcast right quick. Stay right there. Yeah, so um yeah, it's crazy, right? But it is what it is. It is what it is. People gonna be people, and life goes on. But yeah, Pippin, I'm gonna end it for the night. Uh, be back on tomorrow night. You have a blessed one. It's prayer time anyway. You see how that work? God is good. All right, peace, Pippin. You have a good night. All right, baby boy.